How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Tzadiches, Daf 98 of Masechta BavaBasra. Friends, your friends. Alright, we're talking about stuff. Alright, we're going to start on Daf Tzadizayin Amud Beis, 3 lines from the bottom. Says the Mishnah, Mocher yayin lachavero ve'echmitz enu chay b'achrayuso. Baram. If Shimon sells wine to Ruvain and it becomes vinegar, it vinaigrates. Enu chay b'achrayuso. Shimon is irresponsible. It's irresponsible for me to use that word in an irresponsible manner, because irresponsible does not mean not responsible. But who cares? What does vinaigrate mean? We say what we want to say around here. If Shimon sells wine to Ruvain and it vinaigrates, Shimon is irresponsible. Doesn't mean he's irresponsible, it means he's not responsible. He doesn't have to pay restitution. He's irresponsible, like he's not responsible, okay? Okay, he's irresponsible. But like Babylon Talmud-ish, like in irresponsible and Babylon Talmud-ish. That's a language. Okay, fine. So Shimon is irresponsible. Ve'im yadua sheyeno machmitz harizim ekachtos. However, if it is known that Shimon's wine generally vinaigrates, well then it's a mekachtos, right? Meaning, okay, so if Shimon sells a wine to Ruvain and it vinaigrates, Shimon is not responsible to pay restitution to Ruvain. However, if it's a known thing that Shimon's wine tends to vinaigrate, well then Ruvain Be'etzim got duped, right? He thought he was buying wine. Turns out that this wine that he bought has a reputation, unbeknownst to him, of vinaigreting. So in that case, it's a mistaken acquisition, and in that case, Ruvain is Ruvain is eligible, I guess. I think eligible. Yeah, that sounds good. Eligible to restitution. I think that makes sense. Okay. Fine. Ve'im Omar lo yain mevusam ani mocher lo chayv lahamid lo ara atzeres. If Shimon says to Ruvain, I'm selling you parsimonious wine. If Shimon says to Ruvain, I'm selling you parsimonious, fragrant wine, so then chayv lahamid lo ara atzeres. Well then, or no, I think it was flavorful wine. Parsimonious, flavorful wine. Well then, that wine needs to remain wine, mean not be vinegar, it has to remain wine until Shavuos. V'yoshan mishal ishtakid. If Shimon says to Ruvain, I'm selling you Yoshon wine, it means 2-year-old wine, this year and last year. Umeyushon mishal gimoshan. Meyushon is 3 years. This year, the previous year, and the year before that. Okay. Mamash Gevalt. Fine. Says the Gemara, Amar B'Yosef B'Rab Chanina, says Rabbi Yossi B'Rab Chanina, Lo shonu ela b'kankanim de lokeach, avol b'kankanim de mocher, omar lei hochamroch v'kankanoch, v'chikankanim de mocher ma'ave, lemele do. Boop, 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 ba-doo, ba-doo, ba-doo. Okay, so says Rabbi Yosef B'Rab Chanina. Okay, so what did the Mishnah say? We said that if Shimon sells wine to Ruvain and it vinaigrates, and now Ruvain says to Shimon, I want restitution, because the wine is no longer wine, it's vinegar. Ruvain says, I want restitution. So Shimon is not responsible to pay restitution. Says Rabbi Yosef B'Rab Chanina, that is only if the wine is currently in Ruvain's vessel. Because Shimon says to Ruvain, Shimon says to Ruvain, look, it's your vessel's fault. If it would have remained in my vessel, it would still be wine right now. It's your vessel that messed things up. So again, when Shimon is irresponsible to pay restitution, that is only if the wine is in Ruvain's vessel, because Shimon says to Ruvain, your vessel messed up the wine. But if the wine is still in Shimon's vessel, so Shimon sold Ruvain wine, and Shimon sold it to Ruvain in the vessel, in Shimon's vessels, and it's still in Shimon's vessels, and now it's vinegar. Well then Ruvain says to Shimon, hey Shimon, look at this wine. It's vinegar. It's still in your vessels. It's the same way I bought it. Take back your wine, take back your vessel. And then Reuven can demand restitution in that case. Okay. Givaldik. So when the Mishnah says that Shimon is irresponsible to pay restitution, that's when it's in Reuven's vessels. But if it is still in Shimon's vessels, well then Shimon will be responsible to pay restitution. Frag the Gemara. Why? Who cares? Meaning, even if the wine is still in Shimon's vessels. So we're saying that Reuven could say to Shimon, hey Shimon, look what you did, look at your wine over here. It's vinegar. And it's still brand new in the same vessels, it's vinegar. I want restitution. So Rabbi Yosef Ruchinin says, okay, Reuven can get, is entitled. Maybe entitled is what I was looking. What was the word I said before? Wait, don't forget the word entitled. But the word that I said before, I don't think was entitled, is eligible, I think is what I said before. But I think entitled is probably what I really wanted to say. So we said that Reuven is entitled to restitution. But why? Can't Shimon say to Reuven, what were you waiting for? Why didn't you just drink it right away? You're coming back to me later on and saying, Shimon, you sold me vinegar. Oh, well, you should have, what were you waiting for? You should have drank it that night. So again, even if the wine is still in Shimon's vessels, why can Reuven demand restitution? Let Shimon say to Reuven, I'm not paying you nothing. You should not have left it sitting around. You should have drank it right away. Sorry, my eye. Mom, you don't get an apology. Only for eye rubbing doesn't get an apology. Sorry. Well, the arrangement was, the deal was that Reuven was buying wine lemikpa for cooking, to use a shtickle at a time and to keep it around over time. And therefore, it's by definition meant to last. And therefore, if the wine did not last and it's still in Shimon's vessels, Reuven says to Shimon, look, your wine is a joke. I want restitution. Why does Rabbi Yossi bar Chanina have to get so specific in our Mishnah to say that when the Mishnah says that Shimon is irresponsible, Babylon Talmudish irresponsible, that why does Rabbi Yossi bar Chanina need to say that when the Mishnah says that Shimon is irresponsible to pay restitution, it's specifically when it's in Reuven's vessels, and the deal was that it was for cooking. Why not lukma b'kankanin dimocher v'dilo amar le'limikba? Why not say that our Mishnah could be talking about where the wine was not sold for cooking, it was sold for drinking, in which case, regardless of if the wine is in Ruvain's vessels or Shimon's vessels, if Ruvain bought that wine to drink and he has guests for dinner and he takes out the wine and it's vinegar, well then regardless of if it's in Ruvain's vessels or Shimon's vessels, if he's drinking it right away, Ruvain, wait, what? Wait, what? Okay. Okay. Lukman b'kankanin de mocher udelo omele le mikpa. Yeah. Wait, what? Wait, well, I confused myself. Wait 1 second. Pause the video. Yeah, exactly. Meaning, say, exactly. Meaning, say that it's talking about even in the vessels of the mocher, meaning regardless of if it's the vessels of Ruvain or of Shimon, if a few days later, so say the Mishnah is talking about where it is not for cooking, it's for drinking right away. I think I made a mistake what I just said a minute ago, so let me re-explain this. Sorry. Why does Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Chanina specifically have to say that the Mishnah where Shimon is irresponsible to pay restitution is specifically when it's in Ruvain's vessels and it was for cooking, wine for cooking? Why not say that it is talking about wine that is meant to be drank tonight, that day? The thing is, Ruvain did not drink it that day, and he comes back to Shimon later on and says, Shimon, your wine is vinegar, I want restitution. In that case, Shimon would be irresponsible to pay. He would not have to pay, regardless of if it's in Ruvain's vessels or Shimon's vessels. If it was meant to be drank that night and he didn't drink it that night, and he waited around and he says, now Ruvain says to Shimon, I want restitution. Shimon says, you should have drank it, regardless of whose vessels it's in. So again, why does Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Chanina need to specifically say the Mishnah is talking about where it's in Ruvain's vessels and the deal was for cooking? Why not say that who cares whose vessel it's in? It's in Ruvain's vessel, Shimon's vessels, it makes no difference. And the wine was sold to be drank, shortly thereafter. And when Ruvain comes to Shimon later on, a week later, and says, Shimon, your wine is vinegar, Shimon says, well, you should have drank it, regardless of whose vessel it is. So, Omar Ravis says, Rav Masnisin Kshise, because the Mishnah was difficult for Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Chanina. What was difficult? Meaning, to say that the wine was sold for immediate consumption would be tough because the Mishnah continues and says, Im yadua sheyeno machmitz, that if it's known that Shimon's wine vinaigrates, harizim mekachtos, then it becomes mekachtos, and that is something, right? So amai lemle lo ibaylach lishahuye, right? So why does the Mishnah say that if it's known that Shimon's wine vinaigrates, then Shimon is responsible? But if it's talking about for immediate consumption, well then why doesn't Shimon just say to Reuven, who cares that the wine has a reputation of vinaigrating? You should have drank it right away. So elalav shmamina da'amle lemikba shmamina. Rather must be because we're talking about cooking wine, and therefore we're saying that Shimon is not responsible to pay restitution. But if it's known that Shimon's wine vinaigrates, well then Shimon would be responsible to pay restitution, even if it's in his own vessels. Okay, even if it's in his own. I don't know. What did I just say? If it's in the lokeach, okay. If it's in the lokeach's vessel, right? So then Shimon is not responsible. If it's in Reuven's vessels, then if it's in Reuven's vessels, Shimon is not responsible. If it's Shimon's vessels, then Shimon is responsible. Then Shimon is responsible. But even if it's in Reuven's vessel, in which case Shimon will not be responsible. If it's known that Shimon's wine vinaigrates, well then Shimon would be responsible. Wow, this is tricky. It's not super tricky, but it's like, I don't know, it's like a lot of details and cases. Yeah. Right. It took me a little while to learn it yesterday, which is usually an indication it's a little tricky if it takes a while to do. But it's just, I don't know. Anyways, it's like unclear if it's tricky or not. Ufliga de Rav Chia bar Yosef. Now this argues on Rav Chia bar Yosef, right? The fact that we say that if it's in Shimon's vessels, so then Shimon would be responsible. This argues with Rav Chia bar Yosef. Rav Chia bar Yosef, Cham Mazal Demari Garim, because wine, whenever it comes to wine, it's always the owner's fault. So meaning, even if it's in Shimon's vessels, and Reuven comes to Shimon and says, I want restitution because it became vinegar in your vessels. According to Rav Chia bar Yosef, Shimon can still say to Reuven, sorry, you don't deserve restitution because it's your bad karma that caused the wine to become vinegar. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, Vavki hayayin boged gever yoyer v'gomer, that wine will betray a haughty individual, somebody who's got bad karma. His wine spoils, and it will not be Shimon's responsibility. Amr Rav Mari says, Rav Mari, Haiman de yoyer, a person who's haughty, afilu a inche beise lo mikabel, he is not even accepted upon his wife. Shneimar, as the pasuk says, gever yoyer v'lo yinve, that a person is haughty and he doesn't have a yinve. Ma'lo v'lo yinve benove shelo, even in his house, even his wife will not accept him if he's a haughty individual. Amr Yehuda Marab kol mizgoya b'tal shachavero b'shatim dechachamim. We learned recently about the cloak of a Talmid Chacham, that it should be a certain length or whatever. So if you have a fellow who decides he's not a Talmid Chacham, but he decides he's going to dress like one, well then ve'eno Talmid Chacham, if he's not a Talmid Chacham, and machnisin also b'mechitzaso shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we don't enter him in to the curtains of to the room, I don't know, the mechitza, the place of the Ribbon Shalom. It says by somebody who's haughty, I guess he's dressing like a Talmid Chacham even though he isn't. It says v'lo yinve el nevei kodechecho. So it's the same yinve nevei kodechecho. It's like by God and a person's haughty, they don't go together. Amar Rava says lo yinve. Amar Rava says Rava Ayman dizovin le chavisa dechamra le chenva. Okay, so if Shimon owns a barrel of wine and he wants to sell the barrel of wine, but the thing is he's not a winemonger. He's not a winemonger. So how is he supposed to sell his wine? Well, he has an idea. Why don't I go to the local shop owner, the local shopkeeper, and make him a deal? Look, I have this barrel of wine. Can you, right, you have a shop, people come in, people buy stuff. Can you sell my wine for me? And you'll make a commission. So the thing is, the wine remains Shimon's. It's Shimon's wine. Reuven is merely a middleman, a shaliach. Reuven in the store, the shopkeeper is a shaliach, selling Shimon's wine for him. Selling Shimon's wine for him. Okay, fine. So adat l'savuye. Okay, fine. So the idea is that Reuven, the shopkeeper, is going to sell it to client, to customers. V'tokif, and then the wine becomes vinegar. So who is responsible? Apalgo atilsa, after a half or a third, it becomes vinegar. Dino de mekabel minei. So Shimon needs to take it back from Reuven, and Reuven is not responsible. That's only so long as Reuven didn't make any changes to the barrel. He didn't add a new spout. But if Reuven added like a new spout to take out the wine from it, well, in that case, I guess Shimon can make the argument, you ruined it. And that's also, right, Shimon only has to take it back so long as the market day had never arrived, meaning on the if the market day had arrived, well then Shimon could argue to Reuven, I don't understand, the market day came, there were lots of people around, how come you didn't sell it when you had the opportunity to? Now it became vinegar, why'd you waste our time over here? So if the market day came and went, and Reuven didn't sell the wine for Shimon when he could have, so then Shimon says, look, I'm not responsible. From a Ravin says, Rava, Ayman de kobil chamra daita de mamti le parvoso devol shafot, va de moti hasam zol Dino de Makabel Le. Oh. Chevre, what's this talking about? Who can tell me what this is talking about? Bav Metzia, Ezu Neshech, Iska. You have an investor and you have a guy. The investor has a barrel of wine and the guy is going to do the legwork. The investor, right? So the idea is it's an Iska, right? They'll basically split profits and losses. So, in the way that Iskas work, without getting into it. So now, okay. Now the thing is, right? So, right. So the investor provides the barrel of wine. The guy is going to go and do the legwork to sell the barrel of wine. The thing is, the investor puts a limitation on the guy's ability to do business. What's the limitation? The investor says, I want you to go to the port of Volshafot, and that is where I would like for you to sell the wine, because that is where we'll get a favorable price. So the interesting thing about that stipulation is that the guy is limited in his ability to do business and to make a profit until he cannot sell that wine until he gets to Volshafot. So what happens if when he gets to Volshafot, hopefully I'm pronouncing that name right. Am I saying that name right? Let me Volshafot. I feel like I'm pronouncing it wrong, but how else do you announce it? How do you say it? Volshvat. Akoponim. So the idea is that you go to Volshvat because there you'll get a favorable price. What happens if during, on the way to Volshvat, the price of wine decreases? Now he gets to Volshvat and they're not able to get the favorable price that they hoped that they would. The thing is, the guy is in a bit of he can make the argument to the investor and say, look, I could have gotten a better deal for it. The thing is, you kind of, I was obligated, I had agreed to, I had committed that I wasn't going to sell it to Volshvat. So the fact that we kind of were unable to make a profit, it's kind of due to your limitation that you placed on the geschäft. So again, V'amar Rava says, Rava, Haiman de kabel chamra adaita de mamti le farvos de Volshvat, that if you have an investor and a guy, and there's a barrel of wine, and the investor makes a limitation for the guy that he can only sell the wine in Volshvat. And by the time he gets to Volshvat, the price of wine went down, and now they can't get the price that they hoped they would get it. They can't sell for the price that they hoped that they would. Dino de Makabale. So the investor needs to accept the loss because he had put that limitation preventing the guy from selling any wine until they got to Volshvat, by which point the price of wine had decreased. What if the wine became vinegar? What if the wine became vinegar? What if the wine became vinegar? So now, the barrel, right? The wine is still in the barrel. It's still Shimon's. So the shaila is, so we had said, according to Rabbi Yossi Bar Chanina, that, or meaning the investors, so we had said according to Rabbi Yossi Bar Chanina, that when Shimon sells the wine to Ruvain, if it's still in Shimon's barrels, well then Shimon's responsible. So what happens if the wine becomes vinegar? Amalei Rav Hillel, the Rav Ashi ki avon be'Rav Kahana says Rav Hillel to Rav Ashi that when we buy Rav Kahana Amalei and he said Chala lo, Shimon is not responsible if it's vinegar. Unlike Rabbi Yossi Bar Chanina, because Rabbi Yossi Bar Chanina says that Shimon, or in this case the investor, would be responsible. Those who say Afilu cholanami mikabel, that no, even if it becomes vinegar, he does accept it. Shimon would accept the loss. Command Rabbi Yosef Bar Chanina would be like Rabbi Yosef Bar Chanina, who says that when Shimon sells the wine to Ruvain and it's still in the vessel, so then it would Shimon would be responsible. So here also the investor, this wine is in his barrel and the guy is going to sell it, so the investor would be responsible. That would be like Rabbi Yossi Bar Chanina. Yoshin Mishal Ishtaken v'chulei. We said that old wine means from last year. Tana umiyashin v'olechad achag. And when we're talking about like 1 year, 2 years, that is defined by Sukkos. Come Sukkos, it's considered another year. Says the Mishnah, Mocher Mokim Lachavero. If somebody sells a place to Shimon, sells a place to Reuven, if Reuven accepts a place from Shimon, and the plan is to make a beis chasanis for his son, right? A place for his son to live after he gets married, beis amonos levito, or for his daughter if her husband passes away. As we're going to see in the Gemara, that be'etzem, what they would do is when somebody's son gets married, the son and the daughter-in-law would live by the chassan's parents, not by the kala's parents, because there's a concern maybe the chassan might be inappropriate with his mother-in-law. Anyway, so he stays with his parents, and so the new couple lives by his parents. Now, if he dies, so then the daughter goes back to her father's house, and they would make a place for her to live there. That's the beis amonus. So if a person has some property to make a beis chasanas for his son or a beis amonus for his daughter, bone arba amis al sheish divrei Rabbi Kiva. So Rabbi Kiva says that we're talking about a space that's 4 amis by 6 amis. Rabbi Shmuel amis is Rabbi Shmuel. Rev is bakrizo. 4 amis by 6 amis. That's a cow. That's a cow barn. That's the size of a cow barn. Okay. Rev is bakrizo dalet amis al sheish. Somebody wants to make a cow barn. He makes a space that's 4 amis by 6 amis. The Gemara is going to talk about who's saying this. We're talking about a small house that's 6 amis by 8 amis. Gadol ches al eser. If we're talking about a big house, well then that's a minimum of 8 amis by 10 amis. Traklin, if it's a traklin, the Gemara is going to explain what a traklin is. Yud al yud, 10 amis by 10 amis. Rumo kachatzi orkav kachatzi rochbo, and the height would be half of the length and the width. Rai ledavar b'shimon gamliel omer b'vinyan heichal, and a proof I guess for this is like the heichal. And the Gemara is going to explain exactly who's saying that, but the heichal was 40 amis long, 20 amis wide. 40 and 20 is 60. Divided by 2 is 30. It was 30 amis tall, right? So basically it's half of the length plus the width. 40 plus 20 is 60. Half of that is 30. Okay. Says the Gemara, Lamali lemisna beis chasanas livno beis almonus levito. Why did the Mishnah have to say? Davka beis chasanus for his son and beis almonus for his daughter? Lesne beis chasanus livno ulevito, ubeis almonus livno ulevito. Why can't it be? I mean, I kind of explained it already in the Mishnah, but why can't it be a beis chasanis for his son or his daughter, or a beis almonus for his son or his daughter? So Milsagav Orcha Kamashman is teaching us another thing, which is to lo darke de chasano lemeter be chamur, that it is a newly married couple does not live by that a chassan doesn't live by his father-in-law. I guess his daughter, his mother-in-law. That basically the newly married couple would live by the chassan's parents, not the kala's parents, and that's what it's teaching. And therefore, beis chasanis is davka for his son. Beis chasanis would be for his daughter. Beis almonus would be for his daughter. Kidichsiv, the Pasuk says Kidichsiv b'seif ben Sira, as it says in the book of Ben Sira. Hakosh akalti b'chaf maznaim. I weighed everything on a scale. V'lo kal misubin, and I did not find anything lighter than bran. I weighed all the things, the lightest thing is bran, but yet, Vikal Misubin, what's lighter, or I guess worse than bran, is Chosin Adar B'Veis Chomiv, a Chosin who lives in his father-in-law / mother-in-law's house. Vikal Michosin, and even worse than that, is Oreach Machnes Oreach, a guest who brings another guest. Vikal Oreach, and worse than that, is Meishiv Davar B'Ter Mishma, somebody responds to something before they've even heard the whole thing. Shnema Meishiv Davar B'Ter Mishma Ivelasi Lo V'Chlimo. That somebody responds before hearing the whole thing, it is crookedness and a disgrace. The Mishnah said, Rabbi Shmuel Lama says, Rabbi Shmuel, Refes Boker Hizo Haros Elasos Chule. Okay, so Rabbi Akiva had said that this Beis Chasanus, Beis Hamanus is 4 amos by 6 amos. Rabbi Shmuel responded, that's a Refes Boker. And then we say Refes Boker is 4 amos by 6 amos. So who's saying that? So Refes Boker Man Katanila, who's saying that a cowshed is 4 amos by 6 amos? Ika da Amar Rabbi Shmuel Katanila, Vika da Rabbi Akiva Katanila. Some say it's Rabbi Shmuel, some say it's Rabbi Akiva. Ika da Amar Rabbi Akiva Katanila, some say it's Rabbi Akiva. V'achikoma, this is what it's saying. That Rabbi Akiva says that Rabbi Akiva says that a Beis Chasanus or a Beis Amanus is 4 amos by 6 amos. Rabbi Shmuel responds and says a cowshed is 4 amos by 6 amos. Rabbi Akiva says, yeah, okay. Afapisha Refes Boker. Even though it's a cow, the size of a cowshed, which is 4 amos by 6 amos, nonetheless, sometimes a person can make a living space the same size as a Refes Boker. Some say it's Rabbi Shmuel. This is what it's saying. That meaning, Rabbi Akiva had said that the Beis Chasanus, the Beis Hamanus is 4 amos by 6 amos, to which Rabbi Shmuel responds and says, well, a cowshed is 4 amos by 6 amos. As we know that somebody makes a cowshed, makes it 4 amos by 6 amos. Traklin Yud al Yud, if it's a traklin, it's 10 by 10. My traklin, what is a traklin? Kuvso bevarde, a rose pavilion. That sounds very nice. That would have to be 10 amos by 10 amos. Tani, they taught v'kantir, Shtem Esrei al Shtem Esrei. A kantir is 12 by 12. My kantir, what's that? Tarbetz apadne, what was that? Let me look that up. A courtyard of a mansion. A courtyard of a mansion would have to be at least 12 amos by 12 amos. Rumo kachatzi orko v'kachatzi rochbo, rather than Reb Shimon Gamliel omer kivin in a heichel. And we said that the height would be half the length plus width. And Rabbi Shmuel, and we said a proof is from Rabbi Shmuel, says that it's Kivinian Heichel, like the Heichel in the Holy Temple, which was 40 by 20, and the height was 30. Who's saying that this is the proof? Those who say that it's Rabbi Shimon Gamliel who's saying that, right? Because it said Rabbi Shimon Gamliel in the Mishnah, so he's the one who's saying that it's this proof. This is what the Mishnah is saying. Where do we have a proof that the height is half of the width plus length? It's like the heichel, that the length was 40, the width was 20, and the height was 30. Those who say Tanakama Katanila, the Tanakama is saying it. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel asmui kamitama. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel is asking a question on the Tanakama. The Tanakama, this is what he's saying to the Tanakama. Raya minayin mibinyan heichel. You're bringing a proof that the height is half the width plus length based on the heichel. What is everybody building their homes in the same way that the sanctuary, the temple was built? Are people making noise outside? I can't tell. It's hard to tell. It's hard to tell with the noise cancelling headphones because they cancel the noise, but stuff gets through. But it's hard to know if it's really getting through or not. Maybe I'm just hearing things. We're basically done. Tanya, we learn in the Brayso says rumo kikorosov, that its height is like the length of its beams that go from one right across its width. Just say its height is like its width. Why like the beams? One way to, either I could tell you, well, actually the way that the walls would be built is that actually they were thicker at the bottom and thinner at the top, which means that if you have beams that go across the top, that would actually be longer than like the space at the bottom of the floor. So therefore, we had to specifically say that it's the length of the beams, so that we're talking about the length at the width of the top as opposed to the width at the bottom. Or that the beams go into the windows, and therefore they're like the width of the house is actually a little bit less, because the beams are actually longer than the width of the house, because they have to extend a little bit more so that they can rest on these I guess window slots. So they talk a little bit longer than that, and that's what the height would be. That was the Tzariches of Masechta BavaBasra. We learned about somebody who sells wine. We learned some interesting stuff today, right? That if Shimon sells wine to Ruvain, in what case would Shimon be responsible for restitution if the wine is vinegar or not? Rabbi Yosef ben Chanina said, Davka, if it was sold for cooking and it is in Ruvain's vessels, but if it was still in Shimon's vessels, then Shimon would be chayiv for restitution, right? If it's in Reuven's vessel, Shimon's postur for restitutions. If it's in Shimon's vessels, then Shimon's chayiv for restitution. And if it was for kind of short term, if it was to drink now, and Reuven didn't drink it now, well then Shimon can say to him, why didn't you drink it now? And then right. Okay, we got into some like interesting heter iska stuff, kind of based. We saw the opinion of who is that? Rav Yosef, Rav Chia bar Yosef, who says that whenever wine goes bad, it's always the buyer's fault. He's got some kind of bad karma. And then we got to this new Mishnah about different sizes of like plots and things. Peace out.